This newly updated Titan Void ability build is insane. You're going to be running around in endgame PvE just melting everything with infinite abilities, increased DPS and a lot more. You'll be able to get Devour for instant max health on kills and extra grenade energy. You'll get infinite overshields, volatile rounds, infinite abilities, increased DPS, infinite heavy ammo, and overall you're going to add clear so fast like they've never even existed. This is by far one of the best builds right now for the Titan in Season of the Seraph, and this build was recorded in a Master 1610 Nightfall, whilst almost 10 to 20 under the recommended power level, which just clearly shows how crazy this build is. And the best part is, this ain't a place you would even use this build in, because there is no void burn modifier or void shields to deal with for match game. Now I will go over an optimised setup during this video for both solo play and team play, with a few alternative options if you ain't got specific things for the build. So guys, if you like this one, then be sure to leave a rating as it does really help me out. Smash that subscribe for more amazing builds like this, and now without further delay, let's cause some void chaos. Now guys, just briefly as always, if you do like this build and you want to see more similar things to this one, then you can find the full playlist of new and updated builds, which is linked down below for this current season. And over the next couple of weeks I will be adding a lot more builds to that playlist, so you guys might just find your new best build. But with this one today, like I said in the intro, you will be able to just melt everything regardless of the difficulty using your void abilities. And because we'll get Devour pretty easily, we can get our health back by just killing adds, and combining this with our abilities that grants us overshields on top, you just physically cannot die for as long as you have adds around to kill. Now there are quite a few different setups for this build, which means it doesn't matter if you're running this build as a solo player or you're in a team, because regardless of where you use the build, it will work just fine. It doesn't actually matter what you're doing, a casual strike, a Grandmaster Nightfall with absolutely no void buffs or anything, or you're doing a Master Raid, this build will work perfectly because the way it's designed and the way it works is that you'll be using it to replenish health while getting infinite overshields, which makes the end game PvE process a lot easier. So the most simple way to explain how to use this build is you'll first use an ability like your grenade to kill a bunch of adds. This will spawn void elemental wells while buffing your other abilities and granting you volatile rounds for your void weapons. Picking up the well will grant you damage resistance and a damage buff by 25%. Then you'll use your void weapons or abilities to go on a killing spree, or use your heavy void weapon to start dealing damage to a boss. You'll then be spawning orbs of power. These orbs, when picked up, will grant Devour. Upon killing enemies further, you'll get grenade energy and instant max health while spawning more orbs that will give you super energy and refreshing your Devour timer. You'll keep spawning void wells, orbs, replenishing health, getting overshields and spamming abilities, which is just going to make you dominate in endgame PvE. And if you have a void burn modifier on top in things like a Master Lost sector, then you're going to make life even easier. Now of course the exotic we're using is going to be the Heart of Inmost Light, but you don't actually need to have this. Of course it massively helps the build become more effective, but your alternatives to use of this build are going to be the Mask of the Quiet One, Aeon Safe, Synthoceps, Wormgod Caress, Armantarium, and the Mark 44 Standardides. Now the only ones I'd consider really using with the build other than Heart of Inmost Light are first Mask of the Quiet One. This will grant ability energy when you're damaged and regain maximum health on kills while critically wounded. Great alternative, but other than that, Aeon Safe. This is best used in a team with the Sect of Insight to grant special and heavy ammo for your allies when using finishers. Great for the seasons where you don't have Lucent finisher. Synthoceps, great exotic all round for increasing melee damage, and then Armantarium for the extra grenade charge. Now personally I would stick with using Heart of Inmost Light if you got that, because it does buff your abilities when using an ability by increasing the damage dealt and increasing the recharge rate. This is by far the best exotic for the Titans for all subclasses where you want faster abilities, and that's what we want, right? Faster abilities, since we are an ability build primarily. But if you don't have this, then you do have those alternatives that I've mentioned, but they aren't going to be anywhere near as effective as Heart of Inmost Light, so just be aware of that. For the weapons, of course you do want to use void ones ideally to make the most out of the Font of Might and volatile rounds, as well as the Harmonic Siphon mod. So good weapons to use this season are going to be the Funnel Web SMG, that will deal with your overload champs and great for ad clearing too, by the way. A Palindrome or any void hand cannon to deal with unstoppables, Grid Skipper for anti-barriers, you know, those sort of things. Anything that's void that will get the job done quickly will pretty much do. Heavy weapons, again, void weapons like the Typhon will do just fine. And then for the subclass, we are going to be using the Titan Void Sentinel subclass with the Water Dawn Super. You can use the Sentinel if you want to, but personally I prefer the bubble just for my personal damage buff. But moving to the barricade, you're going to want the rally one just for the faster cooldown, which means you can then spam it for overshields. You want the shield bash melee. This is going to give you overshield and suppress targets, so it's great to pretty much blind tough adds or a group of them. And then the vortex grenade to damage a group of enemies. Aspects we have are controlled demolition. Hitting a target with a void ability or volatile explosion makes them volatile. Further damage to that target will cause them to explode and grants you and nearby allies health, which is just perfect for getting that extra bit of health when you kill adds with those abilities when you don't have devour active to rely on. The second aspect is going to be bastion. Cast your super to grant an overshield to nearby allies, but more importantly, casting a barricade will grant an overshield to everyone and empowers it, so it slowly regenerates that overshield while standing near it. This is probably my favourite aspect in the game out of all subclasses, if I'm being honest. Anything that gives me a free overshield is just amazing, but the fragments we have here are going to be Echo of Expulsion, so that void ability final blows cause the target to explode, Echo of Starvation so that picking up the orb will give us devour, and we'll get that orb using Harmonic Siphon in the helmet to generate orbs on rapid weapon final blows with void weapons, which would be our funnel web for example. And that devour effect will give us max health on kills and grenade energy, as well as extending the devour timer. But the last fragment here is going to be Echo of Stability, so that defeating targets with those grenades will grant us volatile rounds to our void weapons, that being again our funnel web. So you can see how all these things combine together to work really well, which is just perfect. Now for the mods, I will start in the helmet and go down, so we do have Elemental Ordnance to spawn in void wells on grenade kills. If you don't have this one, then your alternative is going to be Melee Wellmaker or a Reaping Wellmaker. Since we'll be spamming abilities, it doesn't really matter too much which one you use. We're going to have the Harmonic Siphon mod to generate orbs on weapon multi-kills, then our Ammo Finder for a heavy weapon, and the stat mod of your choice. For the arms, we have Elemental Armaments to spawn extra void wells on random void weapon kills, a grenade kickstart for extra grenade energy. This does need to be in stasis armor by the way, and then your champion mod, whether that's an unstoppable hand cannon or an overload SMG or whatever you need. By the way, your alternative to grenade kickstart is going to be melee kickstart, if you hadn't already guessed. If you don't have either, it's not a big deal, it just helps. Now in the chest, we have Radiant Light for the extra strength stat. You will probably need this if you want to achieve your triple 100 stats for faster cooldowns, but you also want your damage resist mods with that for extra survivability. In the legs, we have Wealth Tenacity so that picking up void wells will give us damage resistance, which we'll get quite often. And then we'll have Better Already to start health regen when picking up orbs before you go on a killing spree with Devour, along with our Ammo Scavenger mod for your DPS weapon. Then lastly, in the class, here are your options. The first one is based on being a solo player and running the build in things like a Master Lost Sector solo. So you'll want a solo operative and then a Font of Might. This will increase your damage by 15% for playing solo and a further 25% for using Font of Might. If damage ain't an issue and you'd rather get more heavy ammo, I'd replace Font of Might with Lucent Finisher, but personally I never really have heavy ammo issues when playing solo. Now if you're playing in a team, depending on what your team have, you'll want either the increased ability damage mod for 6 energy and a Lucent Finisher for infinite heavy ammo, or a Lucent Finisher, a Font of Might, an Advanced Scout, and an Overload Grenade mod if you have the Artifice Armor for the extra slot. For this build and with the dim link, I will be using this setup, but I will make changes to these mods depending on what I'm playing. And these are the only mods in the class that I'll change to suit what I'm doing, whether I'm playing solo and using a solo op, or playing with a team and using a weakened clear. You can make changes to suit your need, don't just have one setup on its own for everything. Now the very last thing you'll need to focus on are these stats. You want to ideally go for the triple 100 build, which means you'll want 100 resilience, 100 discipline and 100 strength in that order. You do definitely want the 100 resilience as your main priority though, if you can't get the other stats. So that in the meantime you can focus on getting high stat armor to make the build perfect for you. Now overall for this one, I do like it a lot and it is one of my favourite and main builds I use all the time in endgame PvE, both solo and as a team. And it's really useful for achieving flawless activities like the new dungeon which I've done, a master nightfall and all sorts. There may be times where you might have the occasional death once in a while, but if you use this and master the build the way it should be used, you'll do just fine. But overall, an amazing build to use, especially if you don't have any other good builds. But guys, that there is your newly updated Titan Void ability build in Destiny 2 Witch Queen Season of the Seraph, or Season 19. Next, as always, be sure to check out the new Season 19 playlist down below for more new, fun and updated builds like this one, as I do cover them every week here on the channel. But for now guys, have a good one, go cause void chaos, and I'll see you guys very soon for the next build video. Peace out guys.